Dr. Fair, if I could begin by asking you, the Corps Commander's house being ransacked, other military installations being targeted from Lahore to Multan, army accusing Imran Khan supporters. His supporters say this is being done to tarnish Imran Khan and bar him from elections. How do you assess the situation on ground?
So first of all, I'm always going to bet on the Fauj. No matter how things might look, how unstable things or even how unfavorable things might look, over the long term, the Fauj always wins. I mean, this is, I think, the safest bet one can make in Pakistan. I think one of the reasons why these PTI shenanigans have gone on as long as they have, and how they have peaked in the way in which they have, has largely been to redound to both the advantage of the Pakistan army, but also to the advantage of the PMLN. They are the biggest beneficiaries of this. And I think Imran Khan has really shot himself in the foot. Had he not called all of his chumchas to engage in this kind of violence, you know, he should have just gone along with the way in which the Fauj Samjhota sausage is made, and there would have been a Samjhota. Elections would have been held, and he would have been returned as Pakistan's corrupt leader once again. But I think he has probably stepped the bounds of any kind of Samjhota with the Fauj, and I think we might have seen the end of his political career. So, you know, I'm always, as I said, I'm going to bet on the Fauj. The Fauj tends to benefit from these kinds of political shenanigans.
Okay.
And, you know, I'm just going to point out that, you know, we've seen this before, albeit in slow motion, with Nawaz Sharif, right?
But to
When
this
these
extent,
creatures of the
when the army is being abused, you know, they're calling army American
I've
dogs, setting the Corps Commander's house on fire, targeting ISI headquarters.
I know your job is to make people get into a frenzy. My job as a scholar is to point out that we have seen such attacks. We have seen assassination attempts on Musharraf. We have seen Corps commanders' premises being attacked by suicide bombers, right? And if we just go back to Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, he thought that he was too important to not be assassinated. So my job is to actually roll back the frenzy that, you know, your network desires, because I look at this over the long durée of history, and the Fauj always wins. There's absolutely nothing unique about this situation that we have not seen. The only exception I will make to this comment is that the army doesn't have a very thick bench of alternatives, right? I mean, essentially right now, the PMLN is the only alternative, right? I know you'll notice that Bilawal has been trying everything that he can do to suck up to the Fauj, as we saw in Goa.
Yes.
So what's different is that the Fauj has fewer options, and there are also considerable divisions within the Fauj.
Yes.
But over time, the wise person always bets on the Fauj.
Okay. You're saying the wise person always bets on the Fauj, and I'll come to you. No, we are creating no frenzy. We're just reporting facts on ground as they happen, Dr. Fair.
You sound pretty frenzied.
I'm just looking at what's happening, Dr. Fair. Dr. Mustaqim, arson, violence and vandalism hours after Imran Khan's call for jihad for Azadi. Is looting mutton korma and strawberries from General Ghani's palatial bungalow or setting Radio Pakistan building on fire, is this Pakistan's or Imran Khan's jihad for Azadi? Dr. Mustaqim?
Thank you, Zia. I'm Dr. Sundas Mustaqim. Thank you for having me in your program. First of all, I would like to clarify the connotation of this word jihad. Though I'm not an Islamic scholar, but being a Muslim, let me clarify that jihad has nothing to do with violence and with this, whatever is happening in our country. This is not jihad at all. The religion Islam actually is a peaceful religion, and it also teaches, like, even in the war-torn countries and in the war situation, we are not allowed to attack on females, on children, and even on the trees.
We did see some women coming in the line of fire, ma'am. But the debate is not on jihad. The debate is on Imran Khan's call for jihad for Azadi and mutton korma and strawberries being looted you know, the 4 corps commanders' house, ma'am.
That's what I'm saying. This is not jihad, and we should keep this aside. We should keep it separate. The politics has nothing to do with any kind of religion and any kind of religious sentiments and all that stuff. So politics is something else, and religious connotation of everything or anything is something else. So we should keep this thing separate. The practice of merging both together is not a fine approach at all. So Pakistan came into being because of the reason everyone should has right to practice their own religion, whether it's Hindu or
And that
Muslim
very clearly does not happen in Pakistan, ma'am. The Shias cannot, the Hindus cannot, the Sikhs cannot, the Ahmadis cannot, but that's not my debate today again. But Sushant Sareen, some men in uniform considered close to Imran Khan were disarmed today. There were heated exchanges with the police. The Corps commander's house being targeted, military installations like the Deer Scouts, their barracks being targeted. Is all of this possible in a country where the army is all powerful? Of course, Dr. Christine Fair takes you back to the time when Ziaul Haq's plane was targeted, perhaps by a box of mangoes or whatever else was there in that aircraft. But I want to understand from you, is this situation unprecedented in Pakistan?
You know, Gaurav, in some ways it is unprecedented. All the instances which Dr. Fair recounted of the attack on mosques or on the GHQ or what have you, those were actually isolated events in a manner of speaking. What we saw yesterday and what we have seen today is a kind of a civil insurrection. I would agree with her that to be able to sustain this civil insurrection of sorts is not going to be easy. And one of the reasons why this kind of arson has happened and has been allowed to happen is because the army hasn't cracked down with all the force at its command. And if the army, which can be very ruthless and which has never stopped cracking down and dropping bodies when it comes to Balochistan or some other parts of Pakistan, but has been hesitant to do it in KP and especially in Punjab.
Yeah.
Now, if the army had actually cracked down, if they had started firing in the crowds because of the violence, I think they would have been able to get a firmer control over the situation. But now, if you look at the latest statement of the ISPR, they have given a very clear warning that anybody who attacks these kind of establishments, the army will deal with them with all the force possible. So clearly a red line has now been drawn. Now whether they stick to the red line or not is another matter.
Okay.
But I think even Dr. Fair will agree with the fact that what we have seen in Pakistan over the last 1 year, the way the army has been targeted, not just by Imran Khan and his cronies, but also by his cult on the social media. When was the last time we heard an army chief being called Mir Jafar and Mir Sadiq?
Yep.
When was the last time we heard a serving ISI chief or the number 2 in ISI being targeted the way they have been targeted this time? So clearly something has shifted. But yes, I think it's very early days yet to say that Imran Khan will gain ascendancy over the army. If he does, and I think it's a very slim possibility, but if he does, then the army is like, it's a non-entity after that, because Imran Khan, given his demagoguery and given the kind of personality he has, he is going to make the army subservient to him.
Okay.